Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. One thing I get a lot of requests to cover is the Trailer Park Boys. And if you're not familiar with this series, it's a Canadian comedy series that's from Nova Scotia, and it follows three characters who are kind of low-end criminals and whose schemes rarely succeed. Now, one episode in particular gets a lot of specific requests, and that's from episode 3 because there's a courtroom scene. And so I thought we'd have a look at this. We can sort of lawyer it out and discuss what is accurate and what's just for show. It's actually better than a lot of courtroom dramas, believe it or not. But the other thing I will just give as a little bit of context is that in this particular episode, the main characters have been stealing gas with the assistance of some friends. They set up a sort of illicit gas station, and this ultimately results in a car exploding because one of them can't stop smoking as they go. So let's have a look at the courtroom scene here, and we'll discuss it.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy, for your expert testimony and for providing this very illuminating tape.
So a couple of things here. First, when you look around, this is probably an actual courtroom. And the reason why I say that is, you've got the exterior door there, but you see that slat wall that we just saw. I'll sort of back up a couple of frames here. This slat wall that you can see, that's for acoustics. I see this in courtrooms all over Alberta, typically in, smaller courtrooms. This has the feel of a real, genuine courtroom, so I suspect that that's how they filmed it. This like TV on a stand is pretty ubiquitous. I've seen that in a ton of places. And I just skipped ahead a few frames again. This is possibly actual judicial robes. If not, it's somebody who spent a fair bit of effort in terms of the costuming. So that's kind of interesting. But let's back up a little bit here. And because there's another comment I have to make, but we'll sort of watch this little bit again and then I'll comment.
Mr. Leahy, for your expert testimony and for providing this very illuminating tape. Your Honor, I think the video evidence clearly speaks for itself, and that any sane and rational person would have no choice but to convict these individuals of these ridiculous crimes. Blah, blah, blah.
So here this is a bit of courtroom weirdness. Leahy he's saying, thank you for your expert testimony, although expert testimony is a term of art in a courtroom. It means a particular kind of testimony. Leahy is the sort of, he's the trailer park, I forget his title, but he essentially goes and he's the supervisor. I'm not really sure what he'd be qualified to provide expert testimony in. I think that what they meant is sort of skilled testimony, but that's a little bit odd. Now, we see that Leahy's on the stand right now, and the prosecutor seems to be making closing arguments. That's not appropriate, but again, this is sort of par for the course. We see this kind of stuff in all sorts of courtroom dramas. It's just not how things would actually go. All right, carrying on. And yeah, these little mics that you see there, in a Canadian courtroom, those don't actually amplify the sound typically. What they do is they record things so that they can be used to generate a transcript later. All right, carrying on.
Blah, blah, blah. Oh, fuck. Oh, objection. That's the 17th time that he has sworn so far.
Richard, please.
All right, I'm sorry about all the about all the stuff, but the prosecutor is he's an effing bad guy, and he's pissing me off.
So, it's kind of interesting that the prosecutor is making this stand on decorum when he's got a witness. I mean, first of all, they've got two witnesses up, which is a bit weird. You'd never have two witnesses up at a time. But one of them is also shirtless. So it seems like an interesting time to make a stand on, we need decorum here when he's called a witness who's clearly improperly attired. That guy should have a shirt on, but this is a character point. He basically never wears a shirt. All right.
He can't even speak without swearing. Your Honor, this is ludicrous. It's a disgrace to these proceedings.
Thank you.
And that's not actually the prosecutor's job to stand up and take issue with that. The judge typically would do that. So I don't know why the prosecutor would be making an issue of that. But again, he's playing a good character actor, and he's entertaining as heck.
Richard, since you chose to defend yourself and fired the public defender, I guess it's your turn to question the witness.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
And Richard, before you...
Now, Your Majesty is the wrong term. She would be Your Honor, but I have seen so many self-represented individuals and so many non-lawyers call the judge Your Majesty. It happens all the time. And spoiler, I've heard a ton of police officers do it too. And the police officers should know better. But yeah, this is really common that people do that one.
Begin, I'd like to say that I think this is a bad idea. However, you do have a right to defend yourself, so proceed, but please remember to watch your language.
Now, this is a pretty common admonition. You know, hey, you can represent yourself, but it's really, you should think better of this. Now, you have a right to defend yourself actually does have some limits in Canada. There are circumstances where they might force you to have a lawyer there to do cross-examination. This doesn't seem to be one of those cases, so nothing wrong with this at all. In fact, this makes a ton of sense. So all of this part here is pretty accurate.
Look, I can't speak without swearing, and I've only got my grade 10, and I haven't had a cigarette since I've been arrested, and I'm ready to fucking snap. So I'd like to make a request under the People's Freedom of Choices and Voices Act that I be able to smoke and swear in your courtroom. Because if I can't smoke and swear, I'm fucked. And so are all these guys. I won't be able to properly express myself at a court level, and that's bullshit. It's not fair, and if you ask me, I think it's a fucking mistrial.
Now, I mean, I think that these are actually not bad submissions here. He's saying, listen, I have a lot of trouble, communicating with these limits. And I mean, one thing you don't want to do is you don't ever want to make up legislation. The law that he cites there is not law. He just made it up. I'm sure you guys were able to catch that. But him saying, listen, I can't defend myself properly if I'm going to have to check my language. And him saying, listen, I've only got my grade 10 is an excellent point on this when he's making these submissions. He's saying, I can't keep up here. You've got to cut me a little bit of slack as a self-represented person. I think it's actually a good argument, and I'd have been inclined to go along with the at least the swearing part of it.
This man can't represent anyone, Your Honor. He's a complete and total idiot.
Now, this is actually, the prosecutor would have gotten in a lot more trouble for that, because that is not ethical for the prosecutor. So you can't do that. You can't throw an insult like that. And a self-represented person like Ricky here, you cut them some slack, but the prosecutor, nope. That would be a moment where the judge would be upset with him.
Now, although I am opposed to that kind of language in my courtroom, I'm going to allow it, as unfortunately it is part of your right to a fair trial. So you may proceed, but please, I want to remind you that this is not a carnival. Richard, you have permission to smoke and swear.
Thank you.
Now, I think, as I said, I think that the swearing bit makes sense, given, his particular circumstances. The smoking thing, I think that they wouldn't have allowed. Lots of people need to smoke. I suspect that she might have said, listen, you can go have a smoke break. You can go have a cigarette and then come back. But I don't think she'd have actually let him smoke in the courtroom. I could see the swearing thing. I could see it.
I'm just gonna get some cigarettes, actually. Let's go, Smokes.
But I only got 2 left.
I don't care. You've been a dick all morning. It's the least you can do for me.
Oh, for the love of God.
Just the defendant, please.
Now, one thing I'll comment on is the prosecutor being in a suit. Lots of people have sent this to me going, hey, wouldn't the prosecutor actually be wearing the robes? Not the same robes that the judge is wearing, because the robes are a little bit different between judges and lawyers. But why wouldn't they be, in the full gown? And the reason why is because we only gown in superior court in Canada. In provincial court, not so much. So this would be a provincial court offense. This is fairly minor stuff. And so this makes sense. A lot of Americans might be saying, where's the jury? This is a low-level offense, and in Canada, it would be far more likely to be tried by a judge alone. So all of this is accurate for a Canadian courtroom.
My first order of business is to tell the prosecutor to shut the fuck up and wipe that stupid fucking grin off his face because it's distraculating my case.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been allowed, but it's hilarious.
Next, I'd like to announce that Randy and Leahy have been drinking all fucking day. They're wasted out of their fucking minds, and they're both assholes. And the testimony they just gave was total fucking bullshit. And I can prove it, and I'm going to show you what really fucking happened here.
Now, that's not actually a cross-examination. You know, this is cross-examination. The way you get to them being drunk is you actually have to ask them questions. You know, how much have you had to drink today? Where are you on, you know, how intoxicated are you? But again, TV show. So let's have a look at their video here.
Hey boys, here's $20 cash. Fill up for him, please.
Don't know what that's for. Probably prostitution. We don't want your money, Corey and Trevor. Watch him put the right in his pocket, right there.
What's going on with you guys anyway?
Oh man, we're sick from stealing so much gas, but we should be better in like 6 to 8 days.
Stealing gas? Why, Corey and Trevor, that's highly illegal. You shouldn't be stealing gas, Corey and Trevor.
That's right. It's fucked up to be stealing gas like Corey and Trevor did, and you know, I don't want anything to do with Corey and Trevor's gas stealing. We wanted nothing to do with it.
Me neither, you know what I'm saying? Only whack suckers like Corey and Trevor steal gas and deal dope.
But that was... All right, see you later, Randy.
No, I don't want to say anything about the dope dealing because, you know, I don't know anything about that, but clearly they accepted money on film, and they admitted they stole gas, and they're sick. I mean, look at them. That's gas sickness. Fucking idiots. I got nothing else to say right now.
Now, there's no video authentication here. We don't know where this video came from. One thing about presenting video in court is that you have to actually have testimony to say, what is this video? You can't just go, I have a videotape and here you go. There has to be somebody to testify that this video is of a particular day, that it's, you know, an accurate representation of what it shows, and that it hasn't been edited or modified in any way. So just the basic stuff so that the court can look at the video and assess it. We don't have that. Maybe it was authenticated previously through some other witness here. Now, some of these statements are out-of-court statements tendered for the proof of the truth of their contents, which would make them hearsay. Now, they might be admissible here via a hearsay exception. You know, they're in the moment. The argument is that people didn't know they were being recorded, although they did. That's just the plot point, is they did know. That's why they're having those comments. But so there are some admissibility questions about this, and what I would expect is that there would actually be a voir dire around this. And what a voir dire is the little trial within a trial where you have to argue as to whether this bit should be admitted. And it's really up in the air, because normally you'd have to have those people get up on the stand to testify about those things that are being stated in the video.
Except that the Crown and Leahy can go fuck themselves.
You're not buying any of this bullshit, are you?
Sit down, please, sir, or you'll be in contempt of court, and watch your language.
Yeah, Leahy.
Now, a couple of points. You know, even if you were allowed to swear, I don't think that they'd let you swear at people. But the other thing is, you get up over the, you know, and into the judge's face like that, you will be brought back down the hard way by the sheriff. The sheriff would have been up on their feet and dealing with that real fast. You just don't do that. You can't do that.
Hey, sit the fuck down. Truth fucking hurts, doesn't it, you son of a bitch?
Booby sub booby, Ricky.
Okay.
Whatever. Defense rests. Everybody can fuck off. Except you. I didn't mean you, but those
Thank
two
you,
guys
Richard.
and him.
You may be
Can
seated.
you guys get the fuck out of the way, please?
Now, this is still, you know, a witness. They're really mixing the cross-examination or the examination of the witness with closing arguments, because defense can't really rest here because the Crown hasn't even closed their case. The way it works is the Crown tenders their case, and once they're done with everything, including the cross-examination of their witnesses, then the Crown closes their case, and then the defense gets to choose as to whether they're going to present any evidence of their own on their side, and then there's closing arguments. So this really isn't following the proper procedure, but it's a comedy.
Okay, well, I think I've heard enough, and I'll be back shortly with my verdict. Be seated, please.
That cut there is because there was a bit removed where they were being interviewed outside the courtroom. Not really relevant to the courtroom aspects of things. So, yeah. If you see on the desk there, there's a bunch of stamps and so forth. Again, making me think that this was almost certainly filmed in an actual courtroom, which is pretty cool. I'm wondering how they got permission to do that.
Well, I've reached a verdict in this ridiculous case, and I do mean ridiculous. Given Richard's deconstruction of the video evidence, clearly, Trevor and Corey are the only ones with any hard evidence against them here. Quiet, please. Therefore, I find Richard, Julian, Jamie, and Bubbles not guilty on all counts. Order, please.
Now, I often have to tell people very specifically, listen, I need you to be poker faced. If we win, poker face. If we lose, poker face. Just sit there and, like smile, but don't have the big reaction. And I mean, it really depends on what somebody's being charged with. Because if they were looking at years in prison and they just found out that's not happening, it can be a little difficult for people to keep that in, right? Similarly, some cases are emotionally charged, but yeah, the judge is acting right now to regain control of the courtroom.
Order, please. Trevor and Corey, please stand. I find you guilty and sentence you to 450 hours community service. Case closed.
Now, a couple of points here. First, this that would have been an appealable error, what we just saw. I find you guilty and sentence you to, 450 hours. I mean, first of all, that's a lot of hours of community service. But second, after the finding of guilt, you need to go into a sentencing phase. So the prosecutor would get up and say, here's what we're asking for sentence. The defense would get an opportunity to say, hey, this is our position on sentence. And that's a separate decision. So it's not just, hey, I convict you and immediately here's the sentence. There would actually have to be a process of getting there. Again, these are short episodes, so they're really going to cut a lot of stuff out. But that would be something that would be a very appealable error and something that could clearly be addressed. So I actually really like this show. You might think, hey, it's kind of lowbrow humor, and you know what? It is, which is awesome a lot of the time. Sometimes you just want to relax with something that's a little bit crazy. And a lot of the schemes they come up with are actually fairly grounded in Canadian law. This Trailer Park Boys, believe it or not, does better on Canadian law than a lot of shows that actually purport to be talking about Canadian law. So I really like the show. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. Go check out Trailer Park Boys. I think it's on Netflix. I'm not certain about that, but yeah, it's really worth watching. So a lot of people were requesting that I look over that one and sort of talk about what's accurate and what's not. Let me know in the comments below. I kind of was reluctant to do this one for a good long while because I feel like taking it apart just makes it less funny, but a lot of people wanted me to have a look at this one, and I think a lot of people wanted me to have a look at this one in part because they love the Trailer Park Boys and just wanted more people to see it. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this to be interesting and educational. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to see more content. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level, Canada's National Firearms Association, the CCFR, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Jane Babe and Luxor. And at the $20 level, Mark, Kyle Fox, Haywire, Gerald to the Bailey, Dale Nesbitt, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, and Vicky. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge. See you next time.